Okay, cool. So what I'd like to do is I want to put a little context, well, context in several ways. One is context like, what have they been talking about all morning, extended reality? I want to look at it specifically, where are we in this technology in 2025? I also want to create context to what's going to be in the next part, which is our fellows presentations. So our fellows presentations, our fellows have been with us since January, so they've been with us for 5 months, and Parama has really guided this beautiful program for them. So happy to see them here and have them hand out our certificates later today to you guys. The fellows have operated under the paradigm of what I'm going to show you, which is, let's look at XR where it is now. Let's not try to do what people have been doing for a lot of years, which is essentially, oh, let's do this or this activity in AR, because sometimes it doesn't work. There's no purpose, right? There's no necessarily utility there. But so we've been going through this curriculum of learning about how to actually create, not just create impact, but also use the technology in a way that makes sense. So I want to just take this moment, these next 10, 15 minutes, to talk a little bit about where I see XR. This is me. I am the academic advisor for our fellows and have done this in the second year. Thank you, Nate. I also teach at Ivy and Young Academy. I teach a whole slew of classes in XR. We have a lot of students here at USC, hundreds every year, that come to Ivy and Young to study XR. And interestingly, they come from all majors. We have psychology majors, we have architecture majors, obviously some from gaming and from the arts, but it's really, really wide, and that makes me happy because this is a new medium, it takes a lot of different people. I also am in the process of still building our faculty coalition. Nate, I found another professor here on campus that I didn't know was working with XR. So we're trying to find everybody here on campus and bring them all together and form a coalition. And also in my professional practice, I'm working on a few different startups for XR. And just to give you a little bit of breath, one is about an application to type faster in XR. One is a documentary, an animal documentary. One is a game, and one is an athlete application for measuring your performance. So that just shows how broad this medium really is. All right, so I started teaching XR in 2025. So this is only 5 years ago. And if you look at what this was, what this extended reality was, people used to call it AR/VR, because that's what it was. And that's just 5 years. Right, 5 years is really nothing, right, in our lives, but it's made a huge difference over the last 5 years. So really everything we had, the only two varieties of XR we had in 2020 were AR on phones, Snapchat and so forth, and VR headsets. And these VR headsets you saw, they had lots of plastic parts to them. They were designed to look like game machines. Right, but those are really the only two things that I had to work with when I started teaching XR here. For a little bit, VR headsets were also quite expensive. So $1,500 was not unheard of, because you needed to set up not just, nowadays you just put the VR headset on and you get started. Back then, right, you had to set up these sensors that would track you in the room and so forth, and got really expensive. The amazing breakthrough was the Quest 1, which was $399, which was definitely a big ground shift. And then for a while, we had some devices that were all based on the Google Cardboard, which was a great ethical sort of effort by Google to make something that cost $5, and you could still have some VR. And out of that came, I don't know if some of you recognize these devices here. There's Google Daydream at the top, and then there's the Gear VR by Samsung at the bottom. These devices were around for a few years, but I didn't even tell you about those because they came and went. Nobody really wanted them. Well, let's look at our 2025, right? Where are we today? We have smart glasses, and smart glasses are turning out to be the number one XR device, really. We have real augmented reality glasses. 2 days ago, Snap announced that they're going to make these available to consumers, and those are real AR glasses. You have browser, you have AI, You have touch input. You can like move things around. You can play games with them. They have a full browser. They're kind of like the Apple Vision Pro, but in a smaller format. Then, of course, we have the Quest and headsets like that are now mixed reality. And then we have Apple Vision Pro, right? So we have a whole nother set of devices and technologies, and just within 5 years. So, and if you think that 2025 was a big year for XR, which it was, we're going to see more before the year is over. We're going to see multiplayer in Apple Vision Pro. We're going to see the next Meta Ray-Bans with visual display. Brand partnerships. So brands are now not just saying, hey, it's a Meta device, but you can buy Warby Parker glasses that can have AI built in, right? So that's also maturing, and that's really where I want to go. It's like, how is this industry maturing? Also, developers have recently gained access to the cameras, which means that you can now create applications that take in what the cameras and what the user sees, which was not possible before. So for developers, that's a big one. And 26 shapes up to be even bigger. We're going to get the Google XR glasses. We're going to get probably a smaller version of the Vision product line from Apple. We're going to get spectacles. We're going to get maybe smart glasses from Apple. We'll see. And we'll get Quest 4. So next year is going to be even bigger, right? And it's growing. We're going to just see more devices, more technology. And then 27, who knows, right? Probably new versions of everything we've seen before. So I want to talk a little bit about signs of a maturing medium, and I call XR a medium because that's really what it is, right? We tell stories, we play games, we connect with each other, we communicate. Those are, I think, the 4 main strengths of XR. There's still a problem with this. With all of these devices, as beautiful as they are, what do you think is the main problem for mainstream? Weight, yeah, like some of the form factors, right? But also, it's still not clear to a lot of people, what do we actually use these for, right? Why are they there? Why do they exist? And it's obviously on us. It's on the creators, the designers, the fellows, and the producers of these devices, of this technology, to really explain people what the utility is, right? If we believe in a space program, NASA should tell us why we're doing it, why we're spending time on it, or money on it as well. So this is always the point of reference for any new technology that comes alive, which was, it's now 18 years ago, June 29th, right? The first iPhone, I would mark that as the birth of the digital life, really. Before then, you couldn't imagine that you would share what you cooked that day with friends via, on Instagram or something like that, right? Anything else that we're doing right now is almost like not thinkable without the smartphone. And it's, for XR, I think it's been a little bit of a too quick of a comparison. Like, why aren't they selling as quickly as the iPhone did? Well, the iPhone didn't have that much in the beginning either. There were like 5 apps on it or something like that. It took years for it to really have the impact that it has. But I also don't think that, we would be here without Steve. All right, so some of the things that I see as maturing, signs of maturing in the industry, is actually creating purpose reference. And I think Apple did a good job in 2023 when they explained this thing that we're bringing out is just an evolution of these things that you've already been doing. Don't look at your phone is a computer, your laptop is a computer, and this is also a computer, only that you wear it on your face instead of in your hand, right? And I think when we think of educating the mainstream users, it's important to really create some context. Second important part is to create real language for designers, and that's where obvious work comes in as well. So in my classes, I talk a lot, mostly really about UI and UX when we talk about XR, not about programming. But how do you create enjoyable experiences? How do you create feedback that is usable? And so for designers, we really have to design to have a language. This is ambient. You see this lady here, she's very alert, right? She's looking at her environment. She wants to augment her environment with useful things. For instance, maybe directions how to get to her meeting, or find restaurant recommendations, things like that that are essentially just overlaid, ambient in her life. Whereas the guy on the right, you see, he's relaxed. He has chosen to sit down and immerse himself, right? These two things are almost like, you could say the one on the right side is like if I wanted to sit down and just really listen to a classical concert, the body posture is completely different, right? I'm relaxed, I'm sitting down, I'm having fun, I'm just interacting with with the visuals and the audio. Whereas on the left, she's really just wants information, right? And that's why these smart glasses are so selling so well. And also what we call extended reality, really focusing on extending what we do. So when we look at, for instance, this type of scenario, this is a new way to watch TV. So for your consumers, you have to just create value and just explain to them what it's for. This is a better way to watch sports, right? So if we put it in these terms, I feel like we're maturing, we're getting to a point where people understand what this is for. As well as alternate ownership models, this is something that you might hear from some of our fellows, is, well, if it's not working to sell everybody on paying hundreds or thousands of dollars, maybe this technology might be delivered through other ways. Maybe people in their workplaces will get to enjoy and appreciate the technology before they buy their own. Or maybe it's providers that buy the headsets or buy the glasses, and when you go there, you're going to use them. Just like you go to maybe a 3D movie and you would put on the glasses, right? I think another way that I think we see maturing in the industry is if we present what we do, our work, and like a real company. If you think of any car company, they have a small compact car that just gets you from A to B. They have a medium-sized car, they have a fast car, they have an SUV, and they have maybe even a truck or a bus, right? So we need to start thinking of having product lines, and Google actually did that. So when Google revealed this week or last week their XR glasses, they said we're going to make not just one, we're going to make 3 different versions. One only has AI, one has AI and maybe visuals, and then and then for those people who want it, we're going to do one that actually has like full VR that is interactive. So if we start thinking of this industry as an actual industry and the products as actually product lines, I think we're going to actually start talking to consumers a little better. So Meta does that, right? If you go to their website, if you just go to meta.com, this is like the splash page, right, of just the main Meta website, you see right away, oh, we have AI glasses, we have the Quest, we have apps and games. And that's it. And then you go in and you can see, oh, there's these different brand collaborations that I can get glasses, or I can go for the Meta Quest, which I've heard of. And then this one is probably the most exciting one for everybody here and at Marshall, is that investors are actually seeing returns. So I spoke to Jonathan Carmel a few weeks ago, and he's a big investor, a VC, with a VC firm, and he says they've invested in XR companies with like 40 to 50% returns. Those are still pockets. They're mostly in training and in health, but those markets are growing. So it's really important, if we look at this industry from the business perspective that we're taking here, combining with ethics, is to see like where is the growth and how does the growth spread from there, right? I think like we've all read a lot of negative stuff in the press about Apple Vision Pro is a flop, this or that, but really look at where the success happens, and then we can grow out from there. All right, so I'm really looking forward to the impact our Neely fellows will make in XR, and I wanted to, if I have a few more minutes, would like to sort of frame a little bit what you're going to hear from the fellows. So we have 5 fellows, and we charged all of them to come up with what's called an impact project. They also contributed to the beautiful library that Nate was showing. We have 2 of our fellows. The first one and the last presentation you hear of the fellows, the first one now and the last one will be before our panel discussion, will be focused on adoption of the medium, adoption of AR and XR, both through the enterprise vernacular and the consumer perspective, as well as the ethical perspective and privacy, things like that. And then sandwiched in between those 2 students who are going to talk about the adoption and paths to grow XR. We're going to have 3 that actually have a concrete product idea, and they're going to pitch it to you. And those product ideas will not be your typical games. They will be impact and purpose-driven use cases of XR. So I'm really excited about that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to who's first? Marina. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to introduce Marina Carsten. You started with us in January, as everybody, and you already came from. Do you want to come up here and bring your laptop? We're doing a break first. I don't know. Where's Parama?
I think we have a quick little break.
Quick little break.
Like a 10-minute break.
10-minute break. Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I would like to point you to those beautiful posters that we have over there. You can learn a little bit about the projects you're gonna hear about after the break, and then we'll introduce Marina. Sorry about that. All right.